All right, picture this. You're 9 years old, looking around at the wealthy kids at your school, and it hits you. You want what they have. So you walk right up to your highly educated, incredibly hardworking dad and ask him the million-dollar question. How does one become rich? But he's stumped. He literally doesn't have an answer for you. Instead, he points you toward the father of your best friend, Mitch. Well, that single unanswered question actually kicked off a lifelong financial journey for a young Robert Kiyosaki.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking Robert Kiyosaki's core philosophies from his massive 1997 bestseller and distilling them down into clear, actionable lessons. We are unpacking the exact framework he learned from his friend's dad, a framework that totally flips the script on what traditional schooling teaches us about building wealth.
So here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start with the 2 dads, 2 mindsets. Then we'll hit the 5 rules, escape the trap, assets over liabilities, mind your business, work to learn, and finally, overcome financial obstacles. Let's get right into it.
2 dads, 2 mindsets. This is the foundational contrast that shaped Robert's entire view of wealth. So, his real father, who he calls the poor dad, was a college professor. Super highly educated, wrote a ton, did everything right by traditional standards, yet he struggled with money his entire life. Now contrast that with his best friend Mitch's dad, the rich dad. This guy had way less formal education, didn't write books, but was a massively successful businessman. He became Robert's true financial mentor. It just goes to show you, academic success absolutely does not equal financial literacy.
Rule 1. Escape the trap. And honestly, this first lesson completely destroys the traditional advice we've always been given about working hard.
Kiyosaki calls this trap the rat race. Society tells us, work hard, get a good secure job, get that steady salary. So what do? We do exactly that. But then what happens? Knowing that next paycheck is coming, people take out massive loans for big houses. They finance shiny new cars. They swipe credit cards for expensive dinners. And suddenly, boom, you're stuck in a loop. Almost all of your hard-earned salary goes straight out the door to pay off debt. At that point, you aren't working for yourself anymore. You're literally just an employee for the bank. So here's the crucial takeaway. Rich people never work for money. Instead of just trading their time for a paycheck only to pay off debt, the wealthy focus on creating systems. They figure out how to put their money to work for them. But doing that, well, that requires a very specific type of knowledge. And to escape that middle-class trap, we desperately need financial education. Which brings us to Rule 2, assets over liabilities. The rich dad believed the biggest flaw in our education system isn't what they teach, it's what they leave out. Schools teach us how to get a job, sure, but they never teach us how to actually grow our money. To do that, you have to understand the 2 absolute fundamental building blocks of wealth, assets and liabilities. And the definition is beautifully simple. Assets are things that put money into your pocket. Liabilities are things that take money out of your pocket. So what does this look like in the real world? Well, say you own a house and you rent it out. It generates income every single month. That's an asset. It's actively putting cash into your pocket. On the flip side, if you go buy a brand new car on a loan, you're paying interest, insurance, maintenance. That is a liability. It's draining your pocket. Real financial education boils down to this one behavior: buying assets that generate income and ruthlessly cutting down the liabilities that drain it. Moving on to Rule 3, mind your business. This is all about focusing on your own financial growth even while you're working a standard 9 to 5.
To really drive this home, there's this incredible story about Ray Kroc, the legendary founder of McDonald's. He was giving a guest lecture to a class of MBA students one day, and right in the middle of it, he asks them a seemingly obvious question. Do you know what business I'm in? The students kind of chuckled and were like, well, obviously, you're in the hamburger business. But Kroc just laughed. He looked right at them and dropped this bombshell. He said, I am not in the business of hamburgers. My business is real estate. He explained that whenever someone wanted to buy a McDonald's franchise, they also had to buy the land underneath it from him. To this day, McDonald's is literally one of the largest real estate empires on the planet. The lesson here is huge. Your profession might be teaching or engineering, but that isn't your business. Your job pays the bills, yes, but you must simultaneously mind your own business by building up your own asset column on the side.
Rule 4. Work to learn. This is where Robert really challenges how we think about our careers and our skills.
Here's another great story from the source material. Robert was once interviewed by a journalist who had a master's degree in English literature. Her writing was phenomenal, and her ultimate dream was to be a best-selling author, but she was totally stuck. So Robert gave her some advice. Go take a sales training course.
Well, she was incredibly offended. She felt that as a highly educated academic, learning how to sell was just completely beneath her. Her ego was standing right in the way of her own success.
The harsh reality is this: the world is absolutely packed with intelligent, highly talented but broke people. Talent alone just isn't enough. You have to know how to capitalize on it. If that talented writer has swallowed her pride and learned sales, she probably could have sold millions of books. The biggest difference between Robert's two dads was that the poor dad worked for money and was obsessed with job security. The rich dad, he knew that continuous learning across different skills, like sales, marketing, investing, is absolutely mandatory for wealth. Rich people work to learn. They don't just work to earn.
Rule 5. Overcome financial obstacles. Because look, even with the right education and a willingness to learn, the rich dad warned that everyone is going to hit roadblocks. There are 5 specific obstacles that keep people from growing their assets. First up is fear, specifically the fear of losing money. Look, nobody likes losing, but the rich know how to use failure as a lesson rather than letting it paralyze them. Second is doubt. That little voice asking, "What if this fails?" which causes us to just watch opportunities pass us by. Third is laziness. And here's a crazy paradox for you. Robert notes that often the busiest people are actually the most lazy. They use being busy as an excuse to avoid taking control of their finances. Fourth is bad habits. And finally, ego, which people use to arrogantly hide what they don't know, instead of just asking for help.
So, how do we actually beat these obstacles, especially the bad habits? The rich dad's ultimate hack is right here. Pay yourself first. When you get paid, before you pay rent, before you pay the electric bill, before groceries, you separate your investment money. You force yourself to build your asset column first. By doing this, you become emotionally and financially resilient. It creates this pressure that actually forces you to get creative and find new ways to pay off those remaining liabilities.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to take a hard look at your own life. Think about exactly where your paycheck goes the second it hits your bank account. Building wealth isn't about getting lucky. It's about making a deliberate, continuous shift in how you operate. So I'll leave you with this one thought to carry with you today. Are your daily habits quietly building your assets, or are they just continuously feeding your liabilities?